Cheryl Hines has broken her silence on her marriage to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. despite his alleged sexting scandal with political reporter Olivia Nuzzi.
The courtroom went silent. People watched in shock as Cheryl Hines, the wife of Robert F. Kennedy Jr., suddenly fell to the ground. Just moments ago, she was standing, waiting to hear her punishment. But as soon as the judge spoke, everything changed. Her body gave out and she collapsed right there in front of everyone. Guards and lawyers rushed to help. Some people gasped, others whispered, trying to understand what had just happened. What was said that made her react this way? What kind of sentence was so powerful that it made her legs stop working? This was a moment no one expected. A moment filled with fear, shock, and a truth that no one could ignore. Why was she on trial? The courtroom was silent, except for the occasional shuffling of papers and the soft murmurs of reporters whispering among themselves. The air was thick with tension. Cameras flashed as journalists jotted down notes, waiting for the final moment. But sitting at the defendant's table, pale and stiff, was Eleanor Kennedy, wife of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. A woman once known for her grace, now facing the weight of the law. No one had expected this. No one had imagined that the wife of one of America's most well-known political figures would be sitting in court, accused of a crime that could send her to prison for years. But the evidence was damning, and the prosecution had built a case so strong that even her most loyal supporters had begun to doubt her innocence. Eleanor was facing charges of fraud and embezzlement. According to the prosecution, she had siphoned millions of dollars from a charity organization she had founded. A charity meant to support underprivileged children. The irony was unbearable. A woman who had spent years advocating for children's rights was now accused of stealing from them. Prosecutors claimed that over the past 5 years, she had quietly redirected funds from the charity's accounts into her own personal bank accounts. Luxury vacations, designer clothes, private jets, her extravagant lifestyle was all allegedly funded by money meant for the children she claimed to help. The case had gained national attention. News outlets played video clips of her arriving at court, dressed in simple, modest clothes, a stark contrast to the glamorous woman she had once been. Some believed she was innocent, that she was being framed by political enemies. Others thought the evidence spoke for itself. But how had she gotten away with it for so long? The investigation had been ongoing for nearly 2 years. It started with small whispers, suspicious financial transactions, missing donations, and unaccounted funds. At first, no one believed the rumors. After all, Eleanor was loved by many. She had always been involved in charity work, always present at fundraisers, always seen hugging children and promising them a better future. But then an anonymous whistleblower came forward with documents, bank statements, emails, and records that painted a very different picture. The authorities launched an official investigation, and soon, the truth began to unravel. As investigators dug deeper, they found a trail of deception. Money had been funneled into offshore accounts, expenses had been falsified, and millions had disappeared without explanation. When confronted, Eleanor denied everything. She insisted that it was all a mistake, that someone was trying to destroy her reputation. But the evidence was too strong. The government had enough to charge her, and within weeks, she was arrested at her home in front of her family. Eleanor had never been in legal trouble before. She had always been seen as a respectable, law-abiding woman. However, there had been past allegations, whispers that she was involved in shady financial dealings, rumors of backdoor deals and secret transactions. But nothing had ever been proven. Some close to her claimed that she had always been ambitious, that she had always wanted more. Was this just the first time she had been caught? Or was she truly innocent, as she claimed? The prosecution did not hold back. They presented overwhelming evidence, bank records showing transactions that linked her to the stolen money, emails discussing financial matters that directly implicated her, and testimonies from former employees who had grown suspicious of her activities. One of the most damning witnesses was her former accountant, who testified that Eleanor had personally instructed him to alter financial records. Another witness, a former friend and business partner, claimed that Eleanor had boasted about how easy it was to move money without anyone noticing. The courtroom listened in shock as prosecutors played an audio recording of a phone call in which Eleanor allegedly discussed moving funds to a hidden account. The defense objected, claiming the tape was taken out of context, but the damage had already been done. Prosecution's argument against her. The prosecution argued that Eleanor had spent years manipulating people's trust. She had used her charity as a personal bank account, betraying the very people she claimed to help. She is not a victim, the prosecutor said, pointing at Eleanor. She is a mastermind, a woman who built a reputation of kindness, only to use it as a shield for her crimes. Eleanor's defense team fought back hard. They argued that she had no direct involvement in the finances of the charity. They claimed that the missing funds were the result of mismanagement by other employees, not Eleanor herself. She is a mother, a philanthropist, and a woman who has spent her life helping others, her attorney argued. This is nothing but a politically motivated attack against her and her family. The defense also claimed that Eleanor was being unfairly targeted because of her last name. The Kennedy family had always been a subject of controversy, and they argued that the prosecution was using Eleanor as a way to attack them. But was it enough to save her? The verdict and sentencing. The moment, everything changed. The room was packed. RFK Jr. sat in the front row, his face unreadable. Eleanor sat still, hands folded in her lap, her face pale. The tension was unbearable. No one moved, no one spoke. The world was waiting for the judge's final words. When the judge finally spoke, his voice was firm. He acknowledged Eleanor's past good deeds, but made it clear that no one was above the law. There is no doubt that you have done good in this world, he said. But your actions have caused harm to the very people you swore to protect. The sentence was harsher than expected. 15 years in federal prison and a $10 million fine. Gasps echoed through the courtroom. Some cried. Others shook their heads. Eleanor herself sat frozen, her lips parted slightly as if trying to process what she had just heard. For a long moment, Eleanor did not move. Then, slowly, she turned to her husband. Tears welled in her eyes. But before she could say anything, she swayed in her seat. Then, suddenly, she collapsed. Gasps and shouts erupted as Eleanor fell to the floor. Some thought she had fainted. Others believed it was a panic attack. The courtroom exploded into chaos. Courtroom chaos, RFK Jr. rushed to her side, his face stricken with panic. Lawyers and security officers moved quickly, calling for medical help. Reporters snapped pictures as paramedics rushed in. Eleanor was unconscious as they placed her on a stretcher. The trial was over, but the drama was not. Some whispered that she had faked it. Others worried for her health. Her lawyers immediately filed for an appeal, arguing that the sentence was too severe. They hoped to get it reduced, but with the overwhelming evidence, the chances were slim. Would Eleanor serve her full sentence? Would her appeal be successful? Or was this the final chapter in her story? The world could only wait and see. The courtroom may have returned to order, but the impact of that moment will never be forgotten. Cheryl Hines's collapse wasn't just a reaction. It was a sign of just how heavy this sentence truly was. What happens next? Will there be an appeal? Will this change RFK Jr.'s future? Only time will tell. Make sure to stay updated as this story unfolds.
Muhammad Ali was as smart as Charlie Rose and as pretty as Gayle King. What can I do?
For decades, George Foreman's sprawling Texas ranch held secrets that few knew existed. When the boxing legend temporarily stepped away from the public eye in 2018, his estate was thoroughly examined. Every contract, letter, and personal item meticulously cataloged. What researchers discovered inside left everyone stunned, revealing a side of Big George that no one had ever seen. Born in Marshall, Texas in 1949, George Foreman rose from poverty in Houston's dangerous Fifth Ward to become an Olympic gold medalist, two-time heavyweight champion, and eventually a business titan worth hundreds of millions. Behind his transformation from fearsome puncher to beloved pitchman lay stories and artifacts that would change our understanding of this American icon. Hidden in a temperature-controlled vault beneath Foreman's main residence, researchers discovered an extensive collection of journals dating back to his teenage years. These handwritten accounts revealed a man far more strategic and self-aware than his public image suggested. While many viewed young Foreman as simply a terrifying force of nature in the ring, his private writings showed a fighter who meticulously analyzed opponents and carefully crafted his intimidating persona. The journals began during his time at the Job Corps in 1965, where counselor Doc Broadus first introduced him to boxing. Even then, the teenage Foreman was recording detailed observations about techniques and strategies, showing an analytical mind that belied his limited education. One entry from 1966 read, "Watched Clay Muhammad Ali fight on TV tonight. Everyone sees his speed, but it's how he sets up punches 3 moves ahead that makes him different. Could learn from that if I get the chance." One journal from 1973, during his championship reign, contained surprising admissions about his famous fight with Joe Frazier. "I wasn't as confident as I looked," Foreman wrote. "When they announced Frazier's name, my knees almost buckled. I just made sure my face never showed it." This glimpse of vulnerability from a man who had demolished the previously undefeated champion in 2 brutal rounds shocked boxing historians who had always viewed the young Foreman as fearless. The journals revealed that Foreman's intimidating pre-fight stare, which made opponents visibly uncomfortable, wasn't natural but carefully practiced. "Spent an hour in front of mirror perfecting the look," he wrote before his 1974 fight with Ken Norton. "Not blinking is hardest part. Eyes water, but worth it to see fear in their face at weigh-in." This calculated approach to psychological warfare showed a level of sophistication far beyond the brute force puncher often portrayed in boxing literature. Perhaps most revealing were Foreman's writings after his 1974 defeat to Muhammad Ali in the Rumble in the Jungle. While publicly Foreman had always been gracious about this loss, his private journals showed how deeply it affected him. "Lost more than a fight today," he wrote hours after the knockout. "Lost my identity. Who was George Foreman if not champion? Feel like a stranger in my own skin." These raw emotions helped explain his dramatic life change and religious conversion that followed 3 years later. The journals documented a 3-year spiral following the Ali loss, with Foreman writing about increasing feelings of emptiness despite winning his next fights. "Knocked out 5 men since Zaire," he wrote in 1977 before his fateful fight with Jimmy Young. "Felt nothing. The man they cheer for doesn't exist anymore." This existential crisis set the stage for his religious experience after the Young fight, giving new context to what many had viewed as a sudden conversion. The estate contained evidence of Foreman's secret correspondence with Muhammad Ali spanning decades. Despite their famous rivalry, these letters revealed a deep friendship that developed in later years. The earliest letter, dated 1978, showed Ali reaching out to the newly converted Foreman, writing, "George, I heard you found God. I'm happy for you, brother. We fought in the ring, but the real fight is finding peace in this life. You're winning that one now." Most surprising was a letter from Ali dated 1989 during Foreman's comeback, offering strategic advice for handling younger fighters. "These boys haven't seen what we've seen," Ali wrote. "They think it's about muscle. You and I know it's about mind." Foreman had apparently incorporated this counsel into his improbable second championship run, making adjustments to his fighting style based on Ali's suggestions. The correspondence continued until shortly before Ali's death in 2016, with the final letter from Foreman to Ali saying simply, "You showed me how to lose and still win." The greatest gift any fighter could receive. This private friendship between 2 of boxing's greatest rivals adds a poignant dimension to their public narrative. Financial records found in the estate painted an unexpected picture of Foreman's legendary deal with the manufacturers of the George Foreman grill. While the public knew about the $137.5 million buyout for rights to his name in 1999, discovered contracts revealed that Foreman had initially rejected a larger offer that would have paid him $150 million immediately. Instead, he negotiated for a lower guaranteed amount, plus perpetual royalties from certain markets, a decision that ultimately earned him over $200 million total. The documents showed that Foreman had insisted on maintaining quality control provisions that many celebrities neglect in endorsement deals. One clause specifically allowed him to reject any product modifications that reduced quality, with his handwritten note in the margin reading, "If my name's on it, it better work like I say it works." This attention to product integrity helps explain why the Foreman grill maintained its reputation while many celebrity products quickly faded. More surprising was evidence that the grill wasn't the first product Foreman was offered. Documents showed he had previously turned down endorsement opportunities for everything from lawn mowers to fast food chains. A 1992 memo from his business manager questioned his rejection of a guaranteed $8 million for a hamburger chain deal. Foreman's handwritten response: "Won't put my name on anything I don't believe in, period." The estate contained hundreds of unopened letters from fans, many dating back decades. Foreman had apparently kept every piece of correspondence from children, and particularly from former troublemakers, who cited him as inspiration for turning their lives around. His systematic organization of these letters, labeled and dated, revealed how seriously he took his role as a model of transformation and redemption. One section was dedicated to letters from former gang members, who had found positive direction through Foreman's youth center. Foreman had not only saved these letters, but had made detailed notes about following up with many of these individuals, tracking their progress over years and even decades. In some cases, financial records showed he had anonymously funded education or business ventures for particularly promising youth who reached out to him. Researchers discovered evidence of extensive anonymous philanthropy that Foreman had never made public. Financial records showed millions donated to youth centers across America, particularly in disadvantaged neighborhoods similar to where he grew up. A separate foundation, operating quietly under a different name, had funded scholarships for hundreds of students from Houston's Fifth Ward. One document explicitly instructed that, under no circumstances should the Foreman name be attached to these contributions. Tax records revealed that at certain points, particularly during the 1990s as his comeback was generating significant income, Foreman was donating nearly 30% of his annual earnings to various causes. Yet he had structured these donations through such complex channels that not even close associates knew the full extent of his giving. A letter from his financial advisor in 1997 cautioned about excessive charitable allocations potentially impacting long-term security, advice Foreman apparently ignored. Among the most valuable discoveries was Foreman's complete collection of fight films and training footage, including previously unseen recordings of his preparation for his biggest bouts. Sports scientists who reviewed this material noted that Foreman's training methods in the 1970s were decades ahead of their time, incorporating techniques that wouldn't become mainstream until the 2000s. Of particular interest was footage showing Foreman's rehabilitation after his losses, revealing innovative recovery methods he had never publicly discussed. The training footage from his comeback in the late 1980s was especially revealing. While publicly, Foreman joked about his weight and apparent lack of conditioning, private videos showed him performing sophisticated exercise routines focused on core strength and rotational power, rather than traditional boxing workouts. Notes accompanying these videos, written by strength coaches he had hired from Eastern Europe, detailed a scientific approach to maintaining power while accommodating age-related changes. The estate contained surprising medical records that explained one of boxing's greatest mysteries: how Foreman was able to successfully return to championship boxing in his 40s. These documents revealed that during his decade away from the sport, Foreman had participated in an experimental health program, combining nutrition, specialized training, and early preventative screening. Doctors' notes indicated that his cardiovascular system and neurological health had actually improved during his 30s despite his weight gain. Information Foreman had strategically kept from opponents who viewed him as an aging, slow target. Brain scans from throughout his career showed that Foreman had suffered remarkably little damage compared to other fighters with similar experience, partly due to his defensive technique, but also thanks to specialized protocols he followed between fights. A medical report from 1993 noted that Foreman's neurological health appears better than most active fighters 15 years his junior, adding that his cognitive function tests exceed the norms for non-boxers in his age group. Perhaps most poignant were draft chapters of an unfinished autobiography that presented a more nuanced view of Foreman's famous 1977 religious conversion. While he had publicly described a sudden revelation after his fight with Jimmy Young, these private writings detailed a longer spiritual journey marked by doubts and setbacks. "The man in the ring was dying long before Puerto Rico," he wrote. "Every morning I asked God for one more day of being someone else. In that dressing room, he finally answered." The manuscript revealed that Foreman had actually begun attending church services secretly months before his conversion, sitting in the back row of small churches where he wouldn't be recognized. His journals from this period showed increasing disillusionment with fame and wealth, with one entry noting, "Made another million this year. Feel poorer than when I had nothing. Something missing no money can buy." The estate revealed evidence of Foreman's surprising artistic talents. A hidden studio contained dozens of paintings created by the boxer over several decades, landscapes, portraits of boxing legends, and abstract works that showed considerable skill. Correspondence with several prominent artists suggested Foreman had privately studied painting since the 1980s, developing his talent while keeping it completely separate from his public persona. Art catalogs and receipts showed he had anonymously acquired an impressive collection of works by African-American artists, particularly those from the southern United States. Letters revealed he had provided financial support to several emerging artists from disadvantaged backgrounds, sponsoring their education and first exhibitions without public acknowledgement. Most unexpected was Foreman's detailed documentation of the psychological strategies he employed during his improbable comeback in the late 1980s and 1990s. While publicly portraying himself as a jolly, harmless grandfather, private notes revealed a calculated approach to disarming opponents. "They laugh at the belly and old man jokes," he wrote before his 1994 championship fight with Michael Moore. "Perfect. When they're busy laughing, they forget I can still punch through walls." This psychological warfare, hidden behind a friendly smile, helped explain how he recaptured the heavyweight title at age 45. Notes prepared for media interviews showed how carefully Foreman crafted his public image during this period. One document, titled "Interview Themes," listed topics to emphasize: love of hamburgers, being a grandfather, religious faith, and subjects to avoid: training regimen, strategic analysis of opponents, business ventures. The contrast between his deliberately cultivated public persona and his private strategic thinking was striking. The estate contained extensive correspondence with other athletes seeking Foreman's advice on career longevity and business ventures. Letters from figures ranging from Michael Jordan to Mike Tyson showed that Foreman had become a trusted advisor to many sports icons, particularly regarding post-career planning. A particularly moving exchange with a young Tiger Woods in the late 1990s revealed Foreman warning about the pitfalls of fame and the importance of preparing for life's second and third acts. Detailed files showed Foreman had developed a formal mentoring program for retired athletes struggling with the transition to post-sports life. Financial records indicated he had personally funded this initiative, which provided business training, mental health support, and in some cases, seed money for new ventures. Notes from participants described the program as life-saving during their difficult transitions. Financial records showed that while the Foreman grill made him wealthy, his savvy real estate investments may have been equally important to building his fortune. Documents detailed property acquisitions spanning 3 decades, revealing that Foreman had quietly assembled substantial holdings in developing areas long before they became valuable. His investment philosophy, outlined in personal notes, emphasized long-term ownership in tangible assets, a conservative approach that protected him from the financial reversals that affected many other athletes. A handwritten investment guide he'd prepared for his children outlined principles that had guided his financial decisions. Buy what people will always need, not what they temporarily want, and the best investments are boring. If everyone's excited about it, you're already too late. This disciplined approach explained how Foreman had preserved and grown his wealth when many other athletes had lost fortunes through speculative ventures. Also discovered were detailed plans for future business ventures that Foreman was developing before his passing. These included concepts for health food restaurants, specialist gym equipment for older adults, and a comprehensive wellness program based on his own fitness journey. These documents showed a man continuously looking forward, developing new ideas well into his 70s. Most surprising among these business plans was a detailed proposal for sustainable housing developments in historically underserved communities. Architectural drawings and financial projections revealed Foreman's vision for creating affordable housing that incorporated green spaces, community centers, and economic opportunities for residents. Notes indicated he intended this to be his legacy project, designed to transform neighborhoods like the one where he grew up. Perhaps most revealing were Foreman's reflections on his family life, particularly his unusual decision to name all 5 of his sons George Edward Foreman. While he had publicly joked about this choice, private writings revealed a deeper purpose. "When your name has value, you pass that value to your children," he wrote. "But more important, they must find their own identity within that name. Just as I had to find mine again after boxing." This philosophical approach to family legacy added new dimension to what many had considered merely an eccentric choice. Personal correspondence with each of his sons showed how Foreman had guided them to develop distinct identities within their shared name. Letters addressed their individual strengths and challenges, with Foreman encouraging each to find his own path while maintaining family bonds. Far from the confusion outsiders imagined, these documents revealed a thoughtful approach to raising sons who would support each other while developing independent identities. The contents of George Foreman's estate ultimately revealed a man even more remarkable than his public achievements suggested: a strategic thinker who carefully crafted his public image, a businessman whose vision extended beyond obvious opportunities, and a philosopher whose personal transformation was more complex and intentional than anyone realized. For fans and historians alike, these discoveries have prompted a re-evaluation of a man who reinvented himself multiple times, suggesting that George Foreman's greatest talent may have been his ability to control his own destiny while making the world believe it all happened naturally.
I asked my brother, I said, "What are your plans? How are you and Kate getting up there?" And then a couple of hours later, all of the family members that live within the Windsor and Ascot area were jumping on a plane together, plane with 12, 14, maybe 16 seats.
You were not invited on that
I
plane.
was not invited.
Deep under Buckingham Palace, where no one was ever supposed to look, something was hiding. A long, dark tunnel, hidden for who knows how many years. No one knew it was there. Until now. When the FBI and British investigators uncovered the passage, they thought it was just another forgotten tunnel. But the second they stepped inside, everything changed. Their faces went pale. Their hands started shaking. Because what they found wasn't just old or mysterious. It was something no one was ever meant to see. And the biggest question of all, who built this? And what were they trying so hard to hide? The discovery of the secret tunnel. It all started with a tiny mistake. Something so small that at first nobody thought much of it. A maintenance worker inside Buckingham Palace was doing a routine check in the basement. Nothing exciting, just another regular day on the job. He was fixing an underground pipe when he noticed something strange. As he walked across the stone floor, one of the tiles beneath his feet sounded hollow. At first he thought nothing of it, but the sound stuck in his mind. So, out of curiosity, he knocked on the floor again. Hollow. He knocked again, this time louder. Echo. That's when he knew there was empty space beneath the floor. He reported it to palace security, thinking it might be a structural problem. Maybe an old storage room, maybe an abandoned basement. Who knew? But what happened next changed everything. That very night, security cameras in the palace picked up something even more bizarre. One of the basement floor tiles, the same one the worker had knocked on, had shifted overnight. No one had touched it. No one had been down there. Yet somehow, between midnight and early morning, the floor had moved. Now, this wasn't a haunted house, and this wasn't supposed to happen inside one of the most secure buildings in the world. By morning, officials were called in to investigate. At first, they thought it might be a sinkhole or maybe just old, unstable flooring. But when they finally lifted that loose tile, they found something that no one expected. A hidden staircase, leading straight downward. The air that rose from it was cold. Not the kind of cold you'd expect from an old basement. This was deeper, older. A cold that felt like it had been trapped for centuries. That's when the FBI got involved. Now you might be wondering, why would the FBI care about a tunnel under Buckingham Palace? Well, here's the thing. For years, intelligence agencies had been investigating missing historical artifacts, rare items, documents, and treasures that had vanished without a trace. Some believed these priceless objects weren't lost at all. Some believed they were hidden. and some even whispered rumors of secret tunnels beneath London, leading to places the public was never meant to find. So when this underground passage was discovered, the FBI, along with British intelligence officers, had to act fast. Because if this tunnel was connected to something bigger, it meant history had been hiding a very dark secret. Entering the tunnel. The moment they stepped inside, it felt like stepping into another world. The tunnel was narrow, barely wide enough for two people to walk side by side. The walls were made of ancient bricks, some crumbling, others covered in moss. The air was damp and heavy, carrying the smell of earth, stone, and something else. Something old. The deeper they went, the more the air changed. It wasn't just cold anymore. It was thick. It clung to their skin, as if the tunnel itself had been sealed off for so long that even the air didn't belong to this time. Then, they saw something that shouldn't have been there. Footprints, fresh ones. Now think about this. If this tunnel had been hidden for centuries, no one should have been down here. So who had left these? And how recently? The agents exchanged nervous glances. Was someone else down here with them? They pressed forward, flashlights cutting through the darkness. And then, they saw something even stranger. A single torch, still burning. That's when their stomachs dropped. If the tunnel had been abandoned for hundreds of years, then that flame shouldn't exist. Someone had lit it recently. But who? And where were they now? They pushed deeper. The tunnel stretched farther than they expected. The walls changed, shifting from neatly stacked bricks to rough, jagged stone, as if parts of the tunnel had been carved by hand. That's when they saw the first sign of something truly disturbing. A stack of wooden crates, half broken, covered in dust. One had split open, revealing documents so old that the paper looked like it would crumble with a single touch. The agents carefully pulled one out. The writing was faded, but the moment they saw it, their blood ran cold. Latin. Handwritten. Old royal seals stamped across the pages. Were these secret documents from the past? Lost records? Hidden messages? But before they could examine further, they noticed the tunnel took a sharp turn. And at the very end of that turn, a massive, rusted iron door. It stood half buried in the stone, its edges sealed tight with something that looked like wax or old cement. One of the agents stepped forward, reaching out to touch it. The metal was ice cold, even though the tunnel wasn't freezing. Then, as his fingers brushed the surface, thud, a sound from the other side. They froze. Everyone turned to each other, eyes wide. Was something in there? The agent hesitated, then pressed his ear against the metal. Silence. Then, another thud. This time, louder. This time, closer. The FBI agents pulled back, exchanging glances. Some of them wanted to open it, others weren't so sure. But before they could make a decision, the door shuddered, like someone or something was trying to get out. At this point, the team had a choice. Do they open the door, or do they seal this tunnel forever? Whatever was behind it, someone had locked it away. The real question was, why? And more importantly, what if it was never meant to be found? Who knew about this tunnel? Now here's the big question. Did the royal family know about this tunnel? I mean, think about it. Buckingham Palace has been standing for hundreds of years. You'd expect that the people living inside would know every inch of it, right? But what if they didn't? Let's say the tunnel was built centuries ago. Maybe it was dug long before Buckingham Palace even existed in its current form. Maybe it was once connected to an older building that stood here before. That would mean the royal family might not have known about it at all. But then again, how could they not know? We're talking about a tunnel right beneath their feet. Could it be that some members of the royal family were aware of it, but they kept it a secret? What if this tunnel was used for something they didn't want the public to know about? Maybe secret meetings? Maybe something even darker. And here's another thought. If the royal family didn't know, then who did? Someone had to build it. Someone had to use it. And most importantly, someone had to keep it hidden for all these years. So, who were they? If not the royal family, then who built it? And why? Alright, let's assume for a moment that the tunnel wasn't built by the royals. That opens up a whole new set of possibilities. Could it have been built by a secret society? Maybe a group of spies? Or could it have been made for something even more mysterious? London is a city full of history, and throughout the years, it has been home to many powerful people. Kings, queens, politicians, war strategists, and even criminals. Maybe this tunnel was built as an escape route for someone important. Maybe it was a passage for spies during a war. And here's a chilling idea. What if it wasn't just used for transportation? What if this tunnel had a darker purpose? Imagine this. Centuries ago, someone, maybe a secret organization, dug this tunnel and used it to smuggle things, or even people. Could it have been connected to human trafficking? Could prisoners have been kept there? Could this have been a hidden dungeon? The more you think about it, the more questions pop up. Because if this tunnel was built for a reason, and someone went through so much effort to hide it, then whatever happened down there had to be something big. Is this evidence of a hidden part of British history? We all learn about history in school. We hear about kings, queens, wars, and revolutions. But here's the thing. History is always written by the winners. What if there's another side to British history that we've never been told? If this tunnel was never meant to be found, then it's safe to say that it was part of a secret. But what kind of secret? Could it be something that changes what we thought we knew about Buckingham Palace? Maybe this tunnel was used during a time of crisis, and no one ever documented it. Or maybe it was deliberately erased from history. If that's the case, we have to ask, why? What was so dangerous about this tunnel that people wanted to pretend it never existed? Could it lead to another part of London that was once a secret meeting place? Could it be connected to old government dealings? Or could it be something far more mysterious, like a hidden underground network that only a select few knew about? The fact that no one spoke about this tunnel before means that someone wanted it to stay buried. But as we all know, the truth always comes out. Government cover-ups. Now, let's talk about the government. If something this massive was just discovered beneath one of the most famous buildings in the world, why haven't we heard about it in the news? Could it be that the government is trying to cover it up? It wouldn't be the first time governments have hidden information from the public. And let's be real. If this tunnel holds something really shocking, do you think they would just tell us right away? Probably not. Imagine if this discovery exposed something that could change the way people view the British monarchy. Imagine if it revealed something about past kings and queens that would make people question everything. That would be a huge scandal. So what does the government do in situations like this? Simple. They keep quiet. Maybe they've already sealed off the tunnel. Maybe they're investigating in secret. Or maybe they've known about this tunnel for years but didn't want the public to find out. But here's the real question. Can they really keep something this big a secret forever? In today's world, where information spreads like wildfire, it's only a matter of time before the truth comes out. Could it be tied to a major historical event? History is full of mysteries, and some of them might just connect to this tunnel. What if it played a role in a major historical event? World War II. During World War II, London was a city of spies, hidden codes, and secret operations. The British government built many underground bunkers and escape tunnels during this time. Could this be one of them? Maybe it was an emergency escape route for the royal family in case of an attack. Or what if it was used against the royal family? Maybe enemy spies used this tunnel to infiltrate the palace. Maybe someone important went missing through this tunnel, and that's why it was covered up. The Cold War. During the Cold War, intelligence agencies like MI6 and the CIA were involved in all kinds of secret activities. Could this tunnel have been a meeting place for spies? Maybe a place where classified documents were exchanged? Maybe even a place where someone was silenced forever? Ancient royal scandals. The British monarchy has seen its fair share of scandals over the centuries. Affairs, betrayals, even mysterious disappearances. Could this tunnel be connected to one of those stories? Maybe a secret lover of a king or queen used this tunnel to sneak in and out. Maybe a missing servant was hidden here? Or maybe someone was imprisoned down there and never made it out? There are so many possibilities, and each one is more terrifying than the last. How does this change what we know about Buckingham Palace? Let's be honest. When we think of Buckingham Palace, we think of royalty, luxury, and tradition. But this discovery proves that there's another side to this place, one that has been kept in the shadows. If this tunnel really is as old as it seems, then what else is hidden beneath Buckingham Palace? Could there be more tunnels? More secret rooms? Could there be an entire underground world that we've never even imagined? And if the people in power have been keeping this a secret for so long, what else are they hiding? This discovery doesn't just change what we know about Buckingham Palace, it changes what we know about history itself. Because if a tunnel like this can stay hidden for centuries, then what other secrets are still buried beneath our feet? Are secret tunnels under Buckingham Palace real? London is an old city with a deep, complicated history. Beneath its streets, there's another world. Hidden tunnels, forgotten passageways, and underground chambers that most people don't even know exist. Some of these tunnels are hundreds of years old. Others were built in secret and never officially recorded. One of the most famous underground places is the Tower of London, which has tunnels that date back to medieval times. These tunnels were used for escape, for moving prisoners, and even for smuggling goods. Some say they were also used for something much darker, secret executions that history tried to erase. Then there's Whitehall, the center of the British government. It has underground bunkers and secret passages built during World War II. Winston Churchill himself used these hidden tunnels to move around safely while bombs fell over London. And let's not forget Windsor Castle, one of the royal family's favorite homes. It has tunnels leading in and out of the castle, which some say were used by kings and queens as escape routes during dangerous times. There are even rumors that some of these tunnels connect directly to Buckingham Palace. Now here's the big question. If these secret tunnels exist in other royal buildings, why wouldn't Buckingham Palace have them too? In fact, there are stories about a tunnel leading from Buckingham Palace all the way to Whitehall. Some even believe there's an entrance hidden inside a well-known London pub called the Red Lion. The idea is that if the royal family or government officials ever needed to escape quickly, they could take the tunnel instead of going through the streets. But what if these tunnels weren't just used for escape? What if they were used for something else? Whenever we hear about secret tunnels, we usually think of exciting things. Hidden treasures, spies sneaking through the night, or daring prison escapes. But tunnels can also hide dark secrets. And the one under Buckingham Palace? It might have been used for something no one was supposed to see. Think about it. Why would such a tunnel exist? If it was just for escape, why keep it a secret for so long? There must be another reason. One that the public was never meant to find out. One chilling theory is that the tunnel was used to smuggle people, but not in the way you might think. There have been whispers, rumors, and old stories suggesting that tunnels like this could have been used to move prisoners, spies, or even enemies of the crown without anyone knowing. Imagine being taken into the palace and never being seen again. Could this tunnel be connected to something like that? And then there's another theory, one that's even more disturbing. Some people believe that certain underground tunnels in London were used for secret meetings, rituals, or activities that had to stay hidden from the public eye. These stories have never been proven, but history is full of things that were once dismissed as crazy theories, only to be revealed as true years later. So what was this tunnel actually for? Was it a simple escape route, a smuggling passage, or something much, much darker? Possible theories behind the tunnel. There are a few possible explanations for why this tunnel exists. Some make perfect sense. Others, not so much. But they all lead to one big mystery. Why was it kept hidden for so long? Was it built as an escape route? The most logical reason for a tunnel under Buckingham Palace would be to help the royal family escape if they were ever in danger. Think about it. If an enemy army invaded London, or if a revolution started, the king or queen couldn't just walk out the front door. They would need a way to leave without anyone noticing. History has plenty of examples of rulers using secret tunnels to escape. In France, King Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette tried to flee during the French Revolution. But they didn't have a hidden passage, so they were caught and executed. Maybe the British monarchy learned from that mistake and made sure they had a way out, just in case. But here's where things get strange. If this tunnel was really for escape, wouldn't it be common knowledge by now? Wouldn't it be recorded somewhere in history? Yet, no official records mention it. So either it was built in complete secrecy, or it wasn't meant for escaping at all. Was it used for smuggling? Smuggling is another strong possibility. Throughout history, tunnels have been used to move illegal goods, weapons, or even people without detection. Imagine this. Long ago, before modern security systems, Buckingham Palace was receiving something or someone that couldn't be seen by the public. Maybe it was valuable treasure, rare artifacts, or even dangerous people that the monarchy wanted to keep hidden. There's also the possibility that spies use this tunnel. London has always been a city of espionage. During World War II and the Cold War, intelligence agents were everywhere, and hidden tunnels were the perfect way to transport top-secret information without being tracked. Could this tunnel have played a role in something like that? Or was it something even bigger? Could it be connected to other underground networks? London has an entire network of underground tunnels, many of which are still unexplored. What if this tunnel under Buckingham Palace isn't just one tunnel, but part of a larger system? We know that the London Underground, the subway system, has abandoned stations and secret tracks that the public isn't allowed to see. We also know that old buildings, like the Houses of Parliament, have underground passageways that lead to unknown places. So what if this tunnel connects to all of them? If that's the case, the tunnel under Buckingham Palace could lead anywhere, to another royal building, to a hidden bunker, or maybe even to a place that nobody has discovered yet. And here's a crazy thought. What if the tunnel is still being used today? Imagine walking through London, completely unaware that beneath your feet, something is moving. Something hidden. Something secret. Maybe that's why the FBI got involved. Maybe they didn't just find a tunnel. Maybe they found something inside it. Something that wasn't supposed to be found. But what do you think? Was this tunnel an escape route? A hidden prison? Or something even darker? Do you believe the royal family knew about it? Or is there an even bigger cover-up at play? Let's talk about it in the comments. I want to hear your theories. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into one of history's most mysterious discoveries, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. There's so much more to uncover.